My 25 male friend sent me a screenshot of an active and verified Tinder profile of my boyfriend, 23 male. A friend of mine sent me some screenshots of a Tinder profile that had an active badge, meaning profile was online in the past 2 hours and it was verified. The profile had a bunch of photos of my boyfriend, and when I asked him about it, he swore it's a fake profile, saying it's not the first time he finds a fake profile with his pictures, and he said he deleted his Tinder account a long time ago. I found out that the profile was at least 12 miles away from his house, which is quite far even for an accurate GPS. Anyway, I found all of this weird because verified profiles require selfies with specific gestures. The profile also had a lot of his real hobbies and personality traits, his college course, his profession, etc. If the profile really is a fake one, it was created by someone who definitely knows him. Things got a little worse. I asked him to download Tinder and log in with his account. To me, he would download it and showed that he doesn't have an active account, or if he did, it was inactive, and that the other one was indeed a fake account. However, he denied me this, saying that relationships are based on trust and that I had to trust him, specifically because it's not the first time that I suspect him and get proved wrong, and he was tired of having to prove things. Now, I don't know what to do. I love him and I want to trust him, but the profile was very convincing. Many photos, perfect description, and hobbies, verified. He could have spent just 5 minutes to show me his account and shut me up, but instead he came with that trust talk. The only thing he did was show me that all of the photos that the profile had were available on his Instagram at some point since last year, meaning someone could have used them. Another behavior that I found weird was that he didn't even bother about the verified fake profile using his photos. I mean, who doesn't get upset with this? I offered him to help find the fake profile, and he didn't show any interest at all. What would you do? Should I ignore this and blindly trust him? Ooh, he has an update. The profile existed for at least 6 months, which is very hard achievement for a fake profile. I know this because a friend already chatted with that profile in January. The funniest part is that right after I left my boyfriend at his home, the profile suddenly gets deleted. A 6-month-old fake profile being deleted at the exact same day I confronted my boyfriend about that? LOL.
It reminds me of that time when I was in middle school and I got home and my mom told me that she was going to go for a walk with one of her friends around town. She had this phase where she would go for walks around our town just to get some steps in, and I was always taught to never answer the door for strangers. So she leaves and I make myself a bowl of coffee ice cream. And then I hear the doorbell ring. I didn't think anything of it because I have a sister that's 9 years older and she always ordered stuff online, so I thought it was just a delivery driver and that they would go. But they didn't go, and they rang the doorbell again. Figured they would go and that they're just really making sure that we know that they're there. And then he starts knocking on the door very aggressively. I think that's weird. Okay. And then I hear whoever's there messing with the doorknob. Like I hear them trying to open up the door. Like they're forcefully now trying to open up the door. So now I'm freaking out. And at the same time, there's someone else now that goes to my back door, because the way that we would walk in was through our kitchen. We had a glass sliding door. Now there's someone in our glass sliding door trying to pry that door open, and we had blinds, so all I could see was a shadow. So we have 2 people now, one in the front, one in the back of my house, trying to pry the doors open. And I'm very young. I don't even know how old I was, but I was in middle school, so I'm home by myself. I run to one of the bedrooms and I go into my sister's room because she had a window that was facing the front of the house, and I try to see who's in the front because I don't know who's there. I call my mom, she doesn't answer. I call my sister, I'm sure she doesn't answer, and I even called the house of the woman that my mom's on a walk with, and I left them a voicemail because I was freaking out, and I was so young, I was freaking out, and just remember that. Then I muster up the courage to walk up the hallway to kind of try and peek through the front to see if I can see who's at my door, because they're still there. And we had those doors with the crystal glass in the front, so I couldn't really make out clearly who it was because of the crystal glass. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I could see the color of the shirt was green. I could see it was a man, and I could actually see that there was a hole or something in the front of his shirt. But that's all I could make out because the crystal made him look distorted, but I could see the color and that there was a hole. But I didn't know who was back there. Finally, they leave. Thankfully, they leave. And it probably was maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. And finally, my mom calls me because she sees that she has missed calls, and she asked me what was going on. And I said there was people at our house trying to break in, and I was freaking out. And I asked her for her to come home. So she comes home, and then after she comes home, a few minutes later, I see one of our neighbors, the son, who's a teenager at the time, older than me, walking his dog up our street. And he's wearing a green shirt, and I noticed that he did have a hole on the front of his shirt. I was actually able to make that out. A few moments after my mom comes home, I noticed that my neighbor is walking his dog up my street, and I noticed the green shirt and the hole in his shirt. So now I'm thinking I have a hunch that it's my neighbor, but I still didn't know who was in the back door. And I was in middle school, so the next week we had spring break. But we didn't go anywhere for spring break, so I was just home with my sister. And this whole week I am watching our front door and our front windows like a hawk. When I tell you this shook me, and I was so afraid to be home by myself. So on Friday, the last Friday of spring break, right before we returned back to school, I see that same neighbor. And he was a teenager at the time, but he was older than me. He walks up my street, up my driveway, and now I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. But this time he goes all the way to the back of my house, and I kind of follow him to see where he's going. And I go to my mom's room because my mom's room is facing the back of the house, and he's there, and he is at the bathroom window that we had, and it was a very small window. And by the time that I got to my mom's room, he already had the screen off of that window, which makes me think that he's done this before. And it was the smallest window, so why would he choose the smallest window? So I catch him, and let's say his name for the sake of the story is Steven. I said, Steven, because I opened up the window. He freaked out because he wasn't expecting me to be there, I guess. And he stopped right away. And I said, what are you doing? Because he knew who I was and I knew who he was. We were neighbors. And he was, let's say, I don't even know how old I was in middle school, but let's say I was 11. He had to be like 16 or 17. Surprisingly, he stays and he doesn't run away, but he stays there. And I told him to stay there because I don't know what's going on. I call my mom. He ended up telling me who it was that was with him that prior week on the back door. It was my other neighbor. Finally, my mom comes home because I called her. She comes home. She's super pissed off. And my mom, surprisingly, she didn't call the cops. It was my neighbor across the street who heard the situation. He's the one that called the cops. And we had some sort of like restraining order where he couldn't go on our street for a certain amount of time, but like they never listened. And I had mentioned that I called the house of the woman that my mom was on a walk with. She had 2 daughters that we would hang out with, and they were just like not the nicest girls. And I remember when I left them a voicemail, I was truly like scared for my life. I was so afraid and I wanted someone to like pick up. And for the longest time, they always made fun of me for that voicemail because they were like, oh my God, you were so scared. But I was literally maybe 11, 12 years old, and I had no idea what was going on. I had 2 strangers at both of my doors trying to enter. They just made fun of me for the longest time. And now this person that tried breaking into my house is a fireman. And I've always joked around that like, oh, well, that's one way to get into someone's house. Oh, and also I know that there was other times that they were in our house because there was other times that I got home from school after this incident where our front door to our house was cracked open and we never used the front door. We never used that front door. We only ever left from the back door in the kitchen. I called my mom that day. She didn't leave from the front door. I called my sister. She didn't leave from the front door. My dad didn't leave from the front. No one left from the front door because we don't leave from the front door. We never use it. Only for packages, but no one had opened that door. And there was one day that I got home from school and that door was cracked open. So yeah, I have a feeling no, like there was other times that they probably entered our house, and the fact that he was like in that back window, like he went there so fast, you know, like he knew that window I guess was open. And I'm honestly like rethinking this as I'm telling the story. If he went to that back window that day so fast, why did he not go there that day that I was home? So it's making me wonder if in between that time of when I was home and spring break, if he managed to get in at some point, because when I was home, why would they try and pry those 2 doors open if they knew that window was open?
Story time. My boyfriend tried trafficking me at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. He didn't actually mean to though. Let me tell you guys the story. Right, let me set the scene for you guys. So we're driving back home to Ohio. Why did I say it like that? We're driving back home to Ohio from Florida, okay? Just had a vacation, whatever. And we're like 2 hours in, so we need gas, so we decided to stop at this gas station in the middle of nowhere in Alabama. So we filled up our tank, we pissed, and we got snacks. I got me a little Snickers bar, you know, I'm feeling good. We get back in the car, he tries to start it. Bitch, it wasn't starting. So now we're both like, shit. We've never been in this situation before. Why is this happening to us? Please. So he gets out, he checks, pops up in the hood, checks it. He knows a good amount about cars, so I wasn't like tripping too much, but basically ended up coming to the conclusion that it had something to do with his battery being dead, corroded or whatever. So there was basically nothing we could do. It's funny because his car actually gave us clues earlier in the day that he needed a recharge. So basically his heat started coming on out of nowhere, just like a ghost. Like a ghost had just turned it on. and the clock was just like really messed up. So if that ever happens to you, it might be your battery corroding, but also there was no lights showing that he needed a battery replacement. So now we're sitting here with like 3 options, which my boyfriend didn't want to do any of them. He was just sitting there not doing anything. Like, well, we have to do something. Like, the sun sets at like 4:30 because of dumbass daylight savings time. Like, we gotta go. Our 3 options were call for a tow, ask my boyfriend's brother for a ride. He was like 2 hours out in Florida where we had just stayed, or we could ask a random stranger for help. Guess which one my boyfriend picked? Before I could even tell his dumbass to stop, he gets out of the car, tells everyone in and outside of the gas station that we're broke down, that we need help. Literally everyone and anyone. Big, small, man, anyone. Mind you, everything electrical in his car did not work. The windows, the locks, the locks on the doors did not work, bitch. I didn't have any weapons on me, had nothing, and I'm very susceptible to getting kidnapped. I'm like this little tiny 4'11" little girl, so I was freaking out. And my boyfriend is this little scrawny little Timothy Chalamet motherfucker, but like 5'7", 5'8" Timothy Chalamet. Like, he's weighs as much as I do. Basically like a super nice, wholesome golden retriever boy, and is like, hey guys, hey everyone, can you guys jump us? Like, you know, you got some jumps. So now that he's told about like 6 different creepy looking men at this rundown gas station with bars on the windows in the middle of nowhere with barely any service around but the gas station, we finally found this nice fat little old man hillbilly with a super thick country accent. We could barely understand him, but he jumps our car, hooks up his truck, he jump starts it, doesn't work, he leaves. Like, this hoe does not want to start, and he doesn't want to get it towed either. So we call his brother to come pick us up and bring us back where we just came from, back to his apartment to spend another night, and then figure it out in the morning. Been there for about 2 hours. The sun was about to set and we had to wait another 2 hours for him to pick us up. So basically at this point I was just kind of praying to God that I wouldn't get kidnapped. We were just like fresh meat, fresh bait at this point. I was literally waiting for Ted Bundy to rise up from hell, from his grave, and murder us both. You guys already know. I was going off on him, okay? I was calling him a dumbass. What doesn't click? Like, he did not get it. Like, he didn't see anything wrong with what he did. What the actual fuck? Asking strangers for help at the sketchiest gas station known to man, that is a last resort, okay? We could have done better things before that, but I know I'm not crazy. I know I'm not being over dramatic, because my boyfriend's brother's wife actually was pissed at my boyfriend too for doing that. Like, she had the same mindset as me. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you have precious cargo. Like, you're dumb as fuck. My boyfriend's brother didn't see anything wrong with it either, so she was pissed at him too. And I actually found out later that my boyfriend's dad, he was texting him and saying to ask for help. You 3 motherfuckers are so dumb. So basically what ends up happening is the car magically starts 15 minutes after the jump. We call off his brother picking us up. We go back to his brother's place where we just came from in Florida, and we're good. We spend another night and then we leave in the morning. His car is all good. He got a battery replacement at the AutoZone. So it was chill. Now I'm home. Just a tip for you guys. If you have a boyfriend and you plan on going on a road trip with him, make sure you tell him not to do that dumbass shit. Okay? Because I've been with this man for 5 years. Never did I think he would, like, do, like, what the actual frick. But he ended up apologizing, and he was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. If you think I'm being dramatic, maybe, but at the end of the damn day, I was scared. I was scared. Should I break up with him, guys?
These are the top weirdest things men have said to me while hitting on me. And for all the alpha males in the comments, they're gonna be like, you should be grateful, you should be appreciative, like, stop complaining. You might as well just walk around like this. Like, you might as well. Same concept as if a slug told you were fast. It doesn't hold much weight, babe. So first one actually took place when I was 15 years old, so that's really sexy. This is the milk cooling water, by the way. Anyway, so I was at a Wawa gas station, and this old man is yelling at me, screaming across the store, and saying, like, just want to let you know you're beautiful, like you're so gorgeous. And then like starts running over to me, and the cashier's really like, I am so sorry. Like, I guess he said it in a nice way, but don't scream it across the Wawa, please. Next one actually happened, like, the other week. I was walking out the gym. I had my head down, and some man started screaming at me across the parking lot. And, like, hey, baby! And obviously, I'm just keeping my head down and walking, because no. Hey, baby! I'm talking to you! Head down. Hey, baby! This ordinary 2% salicylic acid saved my skin, by the way. Anyway, I go to the gym at like 4 in the morning, so I'm like low-key really scared at this point, and I speed up, walk to my car. He starts running towards my car. He chases me to my car. I literally get in, don't even buckle, hit the gas, and get out of there. Haven't seen him since. Hope he's doing well. This next one also took place in the gym. I was on the pull-up machine, and this man walks over to me. I like fully have AirPods in, so you know this guy's not Gen Z, because he starts talking to me while I have fully AirPods blasting music. And he's like the hair. I'm like, thank you. And if he just left it at that, it would have been fine. But then he's like, it's different from last week, isn't it? Number 1, no. Number 2, I have never seen you in my life, but glad to know you're just checking out my hair every week, you know, whatever. He's like, yeah, it's darker, right? First of all, no. Thanks for ruining my day, because I'm literally trying to go blonder, but whatever. Then he like pats himself on the back and he's like, see, I noticed. Ew. Maybe don't notice. This next one's infamous because my parents really did pick the wrong house. Whenever there's construction on my street, it's always directly in front of my house. Like, my house is on some of the water line, power line, like, access points, I guess. Whenever they are doing construction in front of my house, like, blocking me in, I can't leave my house, like, I can't move my car, they always hit on me. Every time. The infamous video I posted that has, like, over 1 million views now, I think. They literally started barking at me when I was walking past, and the only reason I had to walk past was because they were blocking my driveway in. And I watched the Ring footage back, and they started like clapping and chanting and crap after I walked in my house. Like, just say you don't get women. Just say you were a virgin. Like, it's fine. This happened the other day too. They were blocking in my car yet again. I had to literally, like, they left me like the smallest gap I was able to pull out. I'm not a driver. I've never claimed to be a good driver. I'm like maneuvering out, try and get out of this tiny sliver that they left me that's on like the opposite side of the driveway. I like scrape my car, the bottom bumper of my car, on my like step thing in front of my house. And they're all just like staring, like smiling and waving and like whistling, and I'm like, bro. And then there's also another group at the end of the street that can't even see my house, or the fact that I just like hit a curb. And these grown ass men who definitely go home to their wives are sitting there like, ew! Why do men? Like, why do men? And everyone's like, if it was an attractive guy, you wouldn't care. Like, yes, I would. These are weird ways to hit on women. And I don't care what you look like. The fact that you're ugly and you have no game, pick a struggle, babe. However, there have been positive experiences, like getting hit on and like getting like free crap. Like, one time I was just walking around Six Flags, and this dude literally came up to me and just gave me a free ticket. So I didn't even have to like pay to get in. So in that aspect, it's nice, but when it's happening to you when you're like a minor, it's just like, girl. And I love how men act like they don't like when they get hit on by like annoying, old, or ugly women. Like, y'all act the same way. And this is a little too real, and we all think it, but no one says it. It's like when you're having a really good day and someone like treacherous slides in your DMs, and it's just like a hit to the confidence, man. Like, why'd you have to ruin my day like that? Anyway, I love you, hot knockers, and stay sexy.
Imagine going to Target to buy a present for your partner only for it to be the last time anyone would see you alive. On June 2nd, 2007, a newly graduated 18-year-old named Kelsey Smith left her home in Overland Park, Kansas for a quick trip to her local Target. She was on the hunt to buy her boyfriend a scrapbook for their 6-month anniversary. Little did she know, someone else was also on the hunt. Kelsey never returned home and stopped answering her phone. People close to her grew worried and started looking around for her and checking for any car accidents. They found Kelsey's car in the mall across the street from the Target shopping center and called the police. She was nowhere to be found. Her car was towed to a crime lab for fingerprints and DNA while her parents and her boyfriend were questioned and cleared as suspects once their alibis checked out. This is when they obtained surveillance footage from Target. The video shows Kelsey entering the store, walking through the aisles, grabbing her things, and checking out and exiting into the parking lot. Then it shows her walking to her car, putting her things on the passenger side door, and then getting into the driver's side door. As they closely examined the footage, they noticed something strange. They noticed a man following Kelsey closely in the store while she was shopping and following her to the parking lot after she checked out. From the blurry footage from her in the parking lot, it looked like he approached her, forced her in the car, and drove off. Later, her car is parked at the mall and he exits the vehicle, leaving it there abandoned. His picture was quickly released to the public and tips came flooding in. On June 6th, just 4 days after she went missing, a tip came in about a man and where he resided. When taken to the police station, this man's name turned out to be Edwin Hall. Investigators show him a picture of Kelsey to gauge his reaction. He denies ever seeing her. That's when they show him the footage of him inside Target. He states that he was there but he never saw her. He offers up DNA, fingerprints, and anything else he could to help eliminate himself, which surprised investigators. When pressed further, Hall finally admits that he did see her and that she had great legs. This creeped them out and sent shivers up their spines. Finally, a break came when a local waitress reached out, stating that Hall was the same individual who had harassed her and skipped out without paying. Because of this, they were able to book him for the restaurant theft. Around this time, Kelsey's phone records became available and her last ping location shows her in the wooded area known as Longview Lake. This is when investigators search the area and unfortunately, they make a horrifying discovery. A nude woman fitting her description is found under a pile of branches, deceased with a nylon belt wrapped around her neck. DNA testing later confirmed everyone's worst fears. The victim was Kelsey. The examination of her body would reveal Kelsey Smith's dreadful and gruesome last moments. After DNA testing confirmed the nude body of the woman found in the woods was Kelsey Smith, further examination done revealed the sickening truth. She had been assaulted, sodomized, and strangled with her own belt. A thumbprint from the driver's side belt buckle in Kelsey's car was a match for Hall's fingerprint. Her DNA was also found on a stain inside the zipper flap of Hall's shorts. The chance that it could have been anyone but Smith's was 1 in 280 billion. Edwin Hall was then charged for her murder as well as her rape and sodomy. 18 months later, the trial began and Hall pleaded guilty to all charges to avoid the death penalty and also waived his appeal rights. During the trial, Hall admitted to liking Kelsey's legs and thinking that she looked like a 12-year-old, which is why he chose her. He admitted to following Kelsey to her car, running up to her when she opened the driver's door, and forced her inside by pointing an air gun to the back of her head. From Target, he took her to Longview Lake and committed the horrible acts to her while she was alive. Defensive wounds showed that Kelsey fought for her life. The afternoon Kelsey disappeared, a couple stated that they saw a man carrying a blue duffel bag exiting the wooded area and walking to a black pickup that had several wooden sticks stripped of branches and leaves in the back. On September 16, 2008, Edwin Hall was sentenced to life without parole for the murder of Kelsey Smith. He stated in court, "I can't find the right words to say today. I am so sorry for what I have done. That's it. That's all I can say." The 47-year-old currently remains in prison at the Hutchinson Correctional Facility serving out his life sentence. Since her death, Smith's family has started the Kelsey Smith Foundation to carry on her legacy. The goal is to educate young adults on how to avoid becoming crime victims.
One time I went on a date with a Make-A-Wish kid, and it was definitely like in my top 10 of worst dates, perhaps of all time. It was a complete and utter nightmare, but like kind of in the exact way you would imagine it is. So we were 18, or at least I think I was 18. He was like 19 or 20. We were in college though, and I knew going into it, he was completely bald, but he said he was like cancer-free and past it. And I got it. As someone who has multiple family members and immediate family members who have all like either gotten cancer or passed of cancer, like this was not an unfamiliar topic to me. So while it was like the elephant in the room, it was kind of the only thing this kid talked about it. And I get it, because that had probably been his entire life up until that point. So I gave him a lot of leeway there, but he was telling me about how he was a Make-A-Wish kid. And I was like, that's so cool. Like I've never met a Make-A-Wish kid before and I want to know more. He was telling me that he got diagnosed really young and they said it was really bad, right? So they gave him a Make-A-Wish. You know, he wanted to use it when he wasn't quite as sick. So he saved it to go, and because he wanted to go to Japan or something, he went on some sort of an international trip with it, is what he said. There were a lot of strange holes in his story here and there that made me question the validity of it, but like weird thing to lie about, you know? Like, yeah, I didn't know you could save wishes for many years, like they had rollover minutes or whatever, but I'm not an expert. Or that wasn't the real issue on the date. The issue was that, and I understand, like cancer had been his whole life up to that point, but that was like what he had branded himself as. It is all that he talked about, to the point that he was like acting very arrogantly when we would like, because we were walking around a mall, right? The date was at a mall. We were gonna get food, walking and talking, but he was acting very entitled to things, and he would like bring it up to try and get things. Like, he thought that he could get free food and free stuff. And I'm also like, buddy, you don't have cancer anymore. Like, you can't keep playing the cancer card. You said you're cancer free. I don't mean to sound harsh, but like, you made it to the other side. You're gonna have to develop a personality outside of having cancer at this point. But he was just, in general, really rude the entire date, and he just kind of like talked and bragged about himself the whole time. Which I can fully empathize that, like, yeah, as the kid with cancer in your family, like, you've probably been the number one focus of your family for most of your life. So I can see where that developed, but like, this is a date. You're gonna have to ask me a question at some point here, sir. He really kept like trying to make moves, and then when they didn't land, you know, he would like circle back to the cancer thing, and it felt like the whole time he thought he was entitled to me like getting with him because he had had cancer. And in the end, he threw kind of like a toddler temper tantrum that I didn't want to get with him.
It was all very strange, and needless to say, I never reached out to him again after that date.
When I was a kid, there was no such thing as other parent volunteers. Whenever my school uttered the words, "we need a parent volunteer," my mom hit the gas like that school was on fire. They actually had to tell her to stop volunteering because the other parents weren't getting a chance. Of course, she didn't. She said, why should I slow down just because these other bitches can't catch up, right? And so one day they said, we need parent volunteers for your child's kindergarten parade, which basically they would dress all the kindergartners up in these cute little costumes and parade them through the elementary school, the middle school, the neighborhood, everything. My mom caused fatalities with how quickly she signed up for that. She got herself a cheap little witch costume and she was ready. The day of the parade comes up. My mother gets changed in her witch costume because parent volunteers need a costume. She looks in the mirror, she's mortified. Why? Because she didn't get herself a witch costume. She got herself a slutty witch costume in her haste. She's now looking at herself mortified in the mirror because number one, it's a chilly day out there. The wind's a whipping. It's October. And number two, she's not supposed to look like she's going to give the principal a lap dance after this. Now people are knocking on the door. They're saying, are you coming? Because the parade's leaving. What are you doing? And she has a choice to make. Number one, as a mother, and number two, as a person who enjoys having dignity. Does she go out there with the gals pressed so high, the light reflecting off of it could down a plane? Or does she get changed and miss her child's parade? And you might say, what kind of mother would go out there on a brisk October day dressed like a witchy barmaid? Mine. Because there was the obvious choice, and then there was the one that my mom made. She said, yeah, I'm coming. She opened the door. She said, I'm not missing the chance to photograph my child in a costume that for some reason she has an obsession with trying to get out of. Now you might say, that's uncalled for. That's inappropriate. I don't want to hear that. Well, that might just be because your mother was not willing to go out dressed like a witch stripper. Can't say the same.
You live in a world where each lie creates a scar on the liar's body. The bigger the lie, the deeper and larger the mark. One day, you meet someone that only has one scar. It is the biggest one you have ever seen. He was a real good guy, through and through. Never met anyone quite like him since, never really expect I will either. People like Joe don't come around often. Once in a lifetime maybe, if you're lucky. Almost everyone I've ever met had the tiny silvered paper cuts of white lies on their fingers. It's a price of formalities, a camouflage of sorts, as everyone has a few, some deeper cut than others over the years, opened and reopened time after time. And not just that, but the larger cuts, silvery things on forearms and shins, necks or backs. People lie, it's just the way of things. Sometimes the pain ain't worth the deception. The balancing scale plays out mentally before a person's mouth opens. Joining the force was what I wanted. There was a lie I told myself, a lie I scratched in deep, over and over again. I wanted to change, I wanted my parents to be proud. All lies, tiny scratching lines on my shoulder to create a strange and deceitful pattern that never seemed to heal completely. In truth, I joined the force because I had nothing left. I joined as a last-ditch effort to save myself from rock bottom. Among the elite, surrounded by the brave and the successful, I simply kept my head down. It felt like being a fox, stuck among a pack of wolves. Just being there in the first place felt like deception. But then, there was Instructor Joe. I had more scars than most, and that earned little trust, but if people were politely cold with me, they were visibly frigid with Joe. See, he didn't have the traditional marks on his hands, he didn't have cuts and nicks along his arms, his face or neck. At a quick glance you might have thought him the most honest man alive. In fact, at first people did. A man in his fading 30s without scars? That's like a goddamn unicorn. They're more myth and legend than person, yet there he was. Plain as day. Everyone liked Joe that first week. Everyone wanted to be on good terms with him. I mean, who wouldn't? In a world of liars and cheats, proof reminded at every twist and turn of the road, who wouldn't want someone they could trust? Well, that was before he took off his shirt in the locker room. Before we all saw the hideous mark that covered half his back. One lie, but the most gruesome thing I've ever seen. From his shoulder blade to his ribs, it looked like a crashing comet of red and silvered white. A tiny portion of it just finally healing, a rough tear now recovered again. It was all the same lie. That's something you can just tell sometimes, just know it. Usually you can tell how many times too, but whatever the number was which he'd said that aloud, I don't know. He rarely spoke to begin with, issuing the orders with a stern smile, instructing as all the rest did. He was positive, encouraging, truthful, but that scar was on everyone's mind. Deep, dark, and terrible, someone who could tell a lie like that. Well, there was someone to watch out for. In the end though, it was at the range when things went well and truly sour. Live fire runs, we'd done them 1,000 times, but that day I guess someone forgot themselves. Maybe they thought too much on what and how and their brain skipped a beat, or maybe they were just careless. Regardless of the reason, a shot fired when it shouldn't have. Brass spit fire, air swallowed metal, and lead took its first taste of iron, calcium, iron and dirt. In that order. We all stopped, eyes wide and watching the kid fall down real slow. First standing, staring with his hand pulling away, not even scared, just shocked. Red, like deep crimson soaking and spreading, he dropped down to his knees. Still, he wasn't even there yet, it hadn't quite processed. That's when Joe caught him, and all the shouting erupted. The pandemonium, the first real training turned to action kicking in. Cries for medic. And kit. Get the kit. As people ran for the directions they thought mattered. I was close enough to know that wasn't going to make a difference. Center of mass was what we trained for, the reason was straight and forward, shoot to kill. Eliminate the target and move on. So I sat there, weapon heavy in my hands as I watched Joe hold this kid, blood pouring out into the dirt like a faucet, and I listened to him repeat the words that cut deep. Over, and over, and over again. Hang on, look at me. You're gonna be alright. You're gonna be alright.